Can you try? Just once, please, I'll pay anything.
Can you nurse him just for once? The cowboy pleaded, and the obese girl held the baby close. The Saturday market smelled like fresh bread and cruelty. Nora arranged loaves on her wooden table, hands moving quick and practiced. Customers bought without looking at her. Coins dropped. Bread taken. No eye contact. No thank you. Just silence. She'd been doing this for 6 weeks. Since her husband died. Since her baby was born blue and silent. Since the boarding house took her in and called it charity. The other vendors didn't speak to her. The customers pretended she didn't exist. She was invisible. Until the screaming started. A baby's wail cut through the market noise. Desperate. Dying. The crowd parted. A man stumbled into the square. Broad-shouldered. Unshaven. Eyes wild with exhaustion. His shirt was stained dark. His hands shook as he held a tiny bundle. The baby. So small. Too still. Please. His voice cracked. Someone help. She won't eat. 3 days now. Women stepped back. Men looked away. The baby's cry was barely a whisper. Fading. Where's the mother? Someone finally asked. The man's jaw clenched. She died in childbirth 3 weeks ago. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I've been to every wet nurse in 3 counties. Every single one refused. Near the vegetable stand, 2 women whispered loud enough to carry. That's Thomas Hayes. The one who punched the preacher? Got into a fight at the saloon last week. I heard he's got a temper like wildfire. Can't control it. His wife died because nobody would help. Town decided he wasn't worth the trouble. Now he expects us to nurse his baby? After the way he acts. The women turned away. Others followed. Thomas heard every word. His fists clenched. The anger flashed across his face. But then he looked down at his daughter. At her gray skin. Her shallow breathing. And the anger collapsed into grief. Please, he whispered. She's dying. I don't know what else to do. Nora's hands stilled on a loaf of bread. She saw the baby. So small. Struggling. She saw her own daughter. Silent in her arms. Gone before she'd even taken a breath. Old Martha, the herb seller, stepped forward. She pointed across the square at Nora. That one. The widow. Lost her own baby a month back. She might still have milk. Every head turned. Thomas crossed the square. Boots heavy. Desperate. He stopped in front of her table. Up close, she could see the exhaustion carved into his face. The barely contained rage. The grief drowning him. Can you nurse her? Just once. Please. I'll pay anything. Nora looked at the dying baby. Before she could speak, laughter erupted behind her. 3 women from the boarding house. The fat widow? You're asking her? She couldn't even keep her own baby alive. Built like that and still lost her child. She's cursed. Maybe she smothered it with all that weight. The market erupted in laughter. Thomas spun toward them. His fist rose. Nora grabbed his arm. Don't. He froze. Looked down at her. His arm trembled with barely controlled violence beneath her hand. They're not worth it, she said quietly. Slowly his fist unclenched. He turned back to Nora. Will you help? She looked at the baby. At Thomas's desperate eyes. I live at the boarding house. 2 streets over. Bring her there. Relief crashed across his face. You'll try. I'll try. Thomas exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. Thank you. Behind them, the whispers exploded. She's taking him to her room? Unmarried. Shameless. Desperate fat widow throwing herself at the first man who'll look at her. Nora didn't look back. She packed her unsold bread and started walking. Thomas followed close behind. At the boarding house steps, he stopped. I don't even know your name. Nora. Thomas Hayes. Thank you for not turning away. Inside, the boarding house girls watched from the kitchen doorway. Nora led Thomas up the narrow stairs to her attic room. Behind them, whispers followed. Give it an hour. He'll come back down alone. The baby will probably die anyway. Nora closed the door. Her room was small. A single bed. A wooden chair. A cracked mirror. Thomas stood in the center, holding his daughter. Looking lost. Sit, Nora said quietly. She took the chair. Thomas knelt beside her. Carefully, Nora took the baby. So light. Too light. The baby's eyes were closed. Her breathing shallow. Nora unbuttoned her dress and brought the baby to her breast. At first, nothing happened. Her milk had almost dried up. The baby's mouth moved weakly. Trying. Failing. Come on, Nora whispered. Please. Try. Then, finally, she latched. And drank. Thomas made a sound. Half sob, half gasp. She's drinking. Oh God. She's drinking. Tears streamed down his face. He didn't wipe them away. Nora's own tears fell silent. For 3 weeks, her body had made milk for a baby who would never drink it. Now a baby lived because of her. Thomas sank to the floor beside the chair. His shoulders shook. I thought I'd lost her like I lost Sarah. I thought God was taking everything. Nora said nothing. Just rocked. Just let the baby drink. Outside, the sun moved across the sky. Inside, 3 broken people found their first moment of peace. When the baby finally stopped drinking, her color had changed. Pink instead of gray. Her breathing deeper. Thomas looked up at Nora. You saved her life. Nora handed the baby back carefully. She'll need to eat again in a few hours. Can I bring her back? Nora hesitated. The boarding house matron would be furious. The girls would mock her endlessly. But the baby was alive. Yes. Thomas stood and cradled his daughter against his chest. I'll come back before sunset. He paused at the door. They were wrong about you. The women at the market. You're not cursed. Nora looked down. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because my daughter is alive. And that's not a curse. That's a miracle. He left. Nora sat alone in her small room. Outside, she could hear the boarding house girls laughing, gossiping, waiting for her to fail. But for the first time in 6 weeks, Nora didn't feel powerless. She'd saved a life today. And tomorrow, Thomas Hayes would come back. Not because he had to, because he needed her. And maybe that was enough. Thomas returned at sunset. The boarding house girls were gathered in the kitchen when he knocked. But urgent. They scattered to watch through doorways as Nora answered. Thomas stood on the porch, baby in his arms. His daughter looked better. Pink cheeks. Stronger cry. She's hungry again, he said. Nora glanced at the girls watching from the shadows. Their eyes sharp. Judging. She stepped aside. Come in. The whispers started immediately. Second time today? This is completely improper. She's practically throwing herself at him. Nora led Thomas upstairs again. Each step felt heavier under the weight of their stares. In her room, she nursed the baby while Thomas sat on the floor, back against the wall. I need to ask you something, he said quietly. Nora looked up. Come to my ranch. Just for a few weeks. Until she's stronger. I'll pay you proper wages. Give you your own room. Nora's hands stilled. Thomas. I can't do this alone anymore. Riding here twice a day. The ranch is falling apart. I haven't slept more than an hour at a time since Sarah died. His voice cracked on his wife's name. I need help. Not just with her. With everything. Nora looked down at the baby nursing contentedly. The town will talk. They already are. It'll get worse. I don't care what they say anymore. Thomas leaned forward. My wife died because this town decided I wasn't worth helping. They can think whatever they want. I'm asking you. Will you come? Nora thought about her attic room. The mocking. The loneliness. She thought about having nowhere else to go. I'll come. Thomas's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. The next morning, Nora packed her small bag. One extra dress. Her mother's hairbrush. A Bible. The boarding house girls lined the hallway as she came downstairs. Going to play house with the angry rancher? He'll send you back within a week. Fat girls always get sent back. The matron appeared from the kitchen. You're leaving then? Yes, ma'am. You owe 3 months' room and board. $50. Nora's stomach dropped. She'd forgotten about the debt. I'll pay it when I can. You'll pay it now, or you'll stay until it's worked off. Thomas appeared in the doorway, baby in his arms. How much does she owe? The matron's eyes gleamed. $50. Thomas pulled out his wallet without hesitation. Counted bills. Handed them over. 60. That covers her debt and compensates you for the inconvenience. The matron stared at the money. Thomas turned to Nora. You're free. Let's go. Outside, a wagon waited. Thomas helped Nora up, then handed her the baby before climbing up himself. As they rolled away, Nora heard the girls' voices fading behind them. Did he just pay her debt? $60? For her? Maybe he really is desperate. The wagon rolled through town. People stared, whispered. Nora kept her eyes forward. They're going to make your life difficult, she said quietly. Thomas's jaw tightened. They already did. The day they let my wife die. They rode in silence for a while. Then Thomas spoke again. The ranch isn't much. It's messy. I haven't had time to keep up with things. I can help with that. He glanced at her. I'm hiring you to nurse Grace. Not clean my house. I know. But I need to feel useful for more than just my body. Thomas nodded slowly. Understanding in his eyes. The ranch appeared over the hill. Bigger than Nora expected. Clean fences. Sturdy barn. The solid house. But as they got closer, she saw it. Laundry piled on the porch. Garden overgrown. Chickens running loose. The ranch was dying slowly. Thomas saw her looking. I know it's bad. It's not bad. It's grief. He pulled the wagon to a stop and looked at her. Really looked. Your room is off the kitchen. It was the hired hand's room. It has a lock on the inside. Thank you. Inside, the house was chaos. Dishes stacked everywhere. Dust on every surface. Baby things scattered across the main room. But the bones were good. Strong wood. Big windows. A stone fireplace. Thomas showed her to her room. Small but clean. A real bed. A window overlooking the pasture. It's perfect, Nora said. That evening, after nursing Grace, Nora couldn't help herself. She washed the dishes. Swept the floors. Folded the laundry piled on the table. Thomas came in from feeding the horses and stopped in the doorway. You didn't have to do that. I know. I hired you for Grace. Nora kept folding. I need to work. It's the only thing that keeps me from thinking about my daughter. Thomas picked up a rag and started drying dishes beside her. They worked in silence. Side by side. When the kitchen was clean, Thomas made coffee. Set a cup in front of Nora without asking. Thank you, she said quietly. You're good at this. Taking care of things. My mother taught me. Before she died. And your husband? Nora's hands stilled on her coffee cup. He taught me that not all men are kind. Thomas went quiet. I'm sorry. It's over now. He's gone. They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell outside. Grace slept in her cradle between them. For the first time since Sarah died, Thomas's house didn't feel empty. For the first time since her baby died, Nora felt like she belonged somewhere. Outside, the ranch settled into evening quiet. Inside, 3 broken people began to heal. 2 weeks passed. Grace thrived. Her cheeks filled out. Her cries grew stronger. She gained weight every day. But Nora noticed everything else. The chicken coop was falling apart. Hens scattered everywhere, stressed and not laying. The garden was completely overgrown with weeds choking out any useful plants. The fence near the north pasture sagged dangerously. The barn roof leaked, ruining good hay. Thomas worked from dawn until dark, but he was one man carrying the weight of two people's work. One morning, after nursing Grace, Nora went to the chicken coop. It was a disaster. Broken nesting boxes. Rotting straw. No wonder the hens weren't laying. She found tools in the barn and got to work. 2 hours later, Thomas came looking for her. He stopped in his tracks. Nora was covered in dirt and feathers, hammering new slats into place. The coop was swept clean. Fresh straw everywhere. The hens already looked calmer. "What are you doing?" "Fixing your coop." "I was going to get to that." "I know. But you're one person doing the work of three." She hammered another nail. "And I'm here. And I know how to work." Thomas watched her finish the last repair. "Where did you learn carpentry?" "My father taught me before he died. Before I married a man who told me women shouldn't touch tools." She stood and brushed dirt off her dress. "I'm not helpless, Thomas. Just because I'm big doesn't mean I'm useless." Thomas stepped closer. "I never thought you were useless." Their eyes met. Something shifted in the air between them. "The hens will lay again now," Nora said, her voice quieter. "You'll have eggs by tomorrow." "Thank you." She started to walk past him. His hand caught her wrist. Gentle. Not controlling. "Nora, you don't owe me this work." "I know." "Then why?" She looked at his hand on her wrist. Rough. Scarred. "Because for the first time in my life, someone needs me for more than just my body. You need me because I work. Because I'm capable." Her voice caught. "Because you see me." Thomas's grip loosened but didn't let go. "I do see you." They stood like that for a long moment. Then Grace's cry came from the house. The moment broke. Thomas released her wrist. "I'll get her." Nora watched him walk away, her heart pounding. The next day, she tackled the garden. She was on her knees pulling weeds when two men rode up. Ranch hands Thomas had hired to repair fences. They dismounted and walked toward Thomas by the barn. Nora kept working, but their voices carried. "Got yourself some help, boss?" "I do." "She's a big woman. Bet she eats more than she's worth." Laughter. Thomas went very still. "What did you say?" The laughter died. "Nothing, boss. Just making conversation." "Making conversation about the woman who saved my daughter's life?" "We didn't mean." "Get off my land." "What?" "You heard me. Get off my property. Now." "Come on, Thomas, we were just joking." Thomas stepped closer. His voice dropped to something dangerous. "You insult her on my land, you answer to me. Don't come back." The men looked at each other, then mounted their horses and rode off. Nora stood slowly, her hands shaking. He defended her again. That evening, Grace spit milk on Nora's dress. Her only good dress. "I'll help you clean it," Thomas said. "I have one of Sarah's old dresses you can wear while it dries." They worked together at the wash basin. Water. So, their hands moving over the fabric. Their fingers touched. Both froze. Neither pulled away. Thomas's thumb brushed across her knuckles. Slow. Deliberate. "Nora." "Yes." But before he could speak, Grace started crying from her cradle. The moment shattered. Thomas stepped back. "I should get her." "Yes." That night, unable to sleep, Nora sat on the porch steps. The door opened behind her. Thomas sat down beside her. Close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Too much on my mind." They sat in comfortable silence, looking at the stars. "My wife died hating me," Thomas said suddenly. Nora turned to him. "Not really hating me. But she died scared. The midwife wouldn't come because I'd gotten into a fight with the preacher the week before. He'd said something cruel about Sarah. I lost my temper and hit him." His voice went hollow. "So when Sarah went into labor, nobody would come. She was in pain for hours, begging me to make it stop. I held her hand and I couldn't do anything. When Grace finally came, Sarah was already gone. He stared at his hands. Sometimes I think she blamed me in those last moments. For my anger. For making this town hate us enough to let her die. Nora took his hand without thinking. You didn't kill her. This town did. I should have controlled my temper. And the preacher should have controlled his cruelty. She squeezed his hand. You're not the villain, Thomas. Silence settled between them. My husband didn't die in an accident, Nora said quietly. Thomas looked at her. He was drunk. Beat his horse because it wouldn't move. The horse kicked him in the head. Everyone called it tragedy. But I knew the truth. He beat that horse the same way he beat me. Her voice steadied. Our baby was born a month after he died. Born silent. Blue. The cord was wrapped around her neck. The midwife said it just happens. But I wondered if all the times he hit me while I was pregnant damaged something inside. Thomas turned her face toward him gently. You didn't kill your baby. Fate did. But not you. How can you know? Because you saved mine. The words broke something open inside her. Tears came. They sat like that until the stars began to fade. Two broken people learning they could be whole again. Together. 3 weeks had passed since Nora came to the ranch. Grace was thriving. Pink cheeks, strong lungs, grabbing at everything with tiny fists. The ranch had transformed under Nora's care. Garden producing vegetables. Chickens laying daily. Fences standing strong. The house warm and clean. Everything looked better. But the town was talking. One afternoon, 3 women from town rode up in a carriage. Thomas was out checking the north fence line. Nora was in the garden pulling weeds when they arrived. Mrs. Henderson from the boarding house. The preacher's wife. And another woman Nora didn't recognize. Miss Nora, Mrs. Henderson called out sweetly. Too sweetly. Nora stood slowly, brushing dirt from her dress. We've come to speak with Mr. Hayes. Is he here? He's working the north pasture. Pity. The preacher's wife stepped forward. We came to warn him, actually. About you. Nora's stomach tightened. The whole town is talking, the woman continued. An unmarried woman living alone with a man. It's sinful. Shameful. I have my own room, Nora said quietly. That doesn't matter. Appearances matter. And this appears very wrong. Mrs. Henderson circled closer like a predator. We're here to take you back to the boarding house. For everyone's sake. Before you ruin what's left of his reputation. I'm not going back. You don't have a choice. You still owe. Thomas paid my debt. You know that. Then you're living here as his mistress, the preacher's wife said sharply. Which makes you a whore. The word hit Nora like a slap. Before she could respond, hoofbeats thundered up the road. The 2 ranch hands Thomas had fired 3 weeks ago. Both drunk. Both angry. They reined their horses near the garden, swaying in their saddles. Well, one of them slurred. The fat whores got company. The women gasped and stepped back toward their carriage. Nora's heart pounded. You need to leave. Thomas fired you. Thomas ain't here though, is he? The man dismounted, stumbling slightly. Just you. All alone. The second man climbed down too. We came for what we're owed. Boss fired us over you. Cost us wages. I'll pay you to leave, Nora said, backing toward the house. We don't want money. The first man grinned, showing yellow teeth. We want compensation. He lunged for her. Nora screamed. The man grabbed her arm, his grip brutal. His breath reeked of whiskey. Let go of me. Not until we get what's owed. A gunshot cracked through the air. Everyone froze. Thomas stood 20 feet away, rifle raised, eyes wild with rage. Get your hands off her. The ranch hand released Nora immediately, hands up. We were just talking, boss. You touched her. Thomas's voice was deadly calm. Terrifying. You put your filthy hands on her. He advanced slowly, rifle still aimed. I told you never to come back here. I told you what would happen. Thomas, we were just. Get on your horses. Right away. If I ever see either of you on my land again, I won't fire a warning shot. His finger moved to the trigger. I'll aim for your hearts. The men scrambled onto their horses and rode off fast. Thomas lowered the rifle slowly. His hands were shaking. The town women stood frozen by their carriage. Thomas turned to them, his face a mask of cold fury. You brought them here. Mrs. Henderson's eyes went wide. We didn't know they'd. You came here to take her away. To humiliate her. And while you were calling her names, those men came to hurt her. His voice rose. Get off my land. All of you. Now. Mr. Hayes, we only wanted. Now. The women scrambled into their carriage and fled. Silence fell over the ranch. Thomas dropped the rifle and crossed to Nora in 3 long strides. Are you hurt? Did they? I'm fine. You came in time. His hands cupped her face, checking for injuries. I shouldn't have left you alone. I should have. Thomas. She grabbed his wrists. I'm all right. He pulled her against his chest, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. When I heard you scream, his voice broke. I thought I'd lost you. Like I lost Sarah. I thought. I'm here. I'm safe. They stood like that for a long moment, his heart pounding against her ear. Finally, Thomas pulled back just enough to look at her. I can't do this anymore. Nora's breath caught. What? Pretending you're just a worker. Pretending I don't need you more than air. His thumb brushed her cheek. I love you, Nora. I'm in love with you. And I can't keep hiding it. Tears spilled down her face. I love you too. Then marry me. Not someday. So, before anything else can happen. Before anyone else can try to take you away. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Thomas kissed her then. Desperate. Claiming. Like he'd been holding back for weeks and finally broke. When they pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Tomorrow, Thomas said firmly. We'll go to town tomorrow and marry. I'm done waiting. Inside the house, Grace started crying. They went to her together. The family in everything but name. But tomorrow, even that would change. Dawn broke cold and clear. Thomas hitched the wagon before sunrise. Nora sat beside him, Grace bundled in her arms. Nervous? He asked. Terrified. He took her hand. Me too. They rode into town as church bells rang for Sunday service. The streets were full. People everywhere in their Sunday best, gathering in the square after the morning sermon. Thomas's wagon rolled to a stop in front of the courthouse. Conversations died. Heads turned. The angry rancher and the fat widow. Together. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Thomas helped Nora down, his hand firm on her back. They walked toward the courthouse steps where the circuit judge held weekend hours. The crowd parted, staring openly. Then a voice rang out. Thomas Hayes. Sheriff Patterson pushed through the crowd, the boarding house matron beside him. Thomas turned slowly. Sheriff. Mrs. Henderson filed a complaint. Says you're keeping Miss Nora against her will. Living in sin. The crowd pressed closer, hungry for scandal. Thomas's voice was dangerously calm. Nora's there by choice. Doesn't matter. Unmarried people living together breaks town ordinance. Marry her right now or I enforce the complaint. Thomas turned to Nora. That was the plan anyway. She nodded, heart pounding. They climbed the courthouse steps together. The judge stood in the doorway. You want to marry now? Right now, Thomas said firmly. This is absurd, the matron sputtered. A forced marriage. Nobody's forcing me, Nora said clearly, facing the crowd. I choose him. The judge pulled out his book. Witnesses. Old Martha pushed forward. I'll witness. The blacksmith stepped up. Me as well. The judge opened his book. Thomas Hayes, do you take this woman as your wife? I do. Nora, do you take this man as your husband? I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. He snapped the book shut. Kiss your bride. Thomas cupped Nora's face and kissed her. Right there on the courthouse steps. Unashamed. The crowd erupted in shocked gasps. When Thomas pulled back, he turned to face everyone, arm around Nora. She's my wife now. Legally. Anyone got a problem with that? Silence. Then the matron spoke. This doesn't change what she is. Careful, Thomas cut her off, voice deadly. You're talking about my wife. Mrs. Henderson's face reddened. The town knows she trapped you. She saved my daughter when every one of you refused. Thomas's voice rang out. She saved my ranch. She saved me when I wanted to die from grief. He pulled Nora closer. So yes, she's in my house, my life, my heart. And I'm damn proud of that. One of the boarding house girls called out. You'll regret this. Thomas stared at her. The only thing I regret is that you'll never know what it's like to be loved the way I love my wife. He turned to the sheriff. We done? Patterson nodded. You're married. Complaint dismissed. Thomas helped Nora into the wagon. As they started to leave, he stopped once more. Standing in the seat so everyone could see. One more thing. Anyone who insults my wife insults me. Anyone who threatens her threatens my family. His voice was steel. And I protect my family. Remember that. Then he drove away. The ride home was quiet. Thomas's hand covered Nora's. Mrs. Hayes, he said softly. She looked at him. What? Just wanted to say it. She smiled through tears. I like the sound of that. Back at the ranch, the sun was setting, painting everything gold. Thomas lifted Nora down, then took Grace from her arms. They stood on the porch, watching the sky change colors. Are you happy? He asked quietly. Nora looked at him. This man broken by grief who'd learned to love again. Who'd chosen her when the world said she wasn't worth choosing. I'm happy. Thomas shifted Grace to one arm and pulled Nora close. Good. Because I plan to spend the rest of my life making sure you stay that way. Grace stirred. She's beautiful, Nora whispered. Like her mother. Thomas kissed Nora's forehead. Both of them. Inside, the house was warm. Dinner waiting. Fire crackling. Outside, the ranch thrived. Two broken people had found wholeness in each other. A dying baby had found life. An angry man had found peace. A shamed woman had found worth. Together, they'd built something the town couldn't destroy. A family. As stars appeared, they sat on the porch with Grace between them. Thomas took Nora's hand. We saved each other. Nora leaned against him. We did. They sat in silence as darkness fell. Two people the world said weren't enough. Who found each other. And discovered they were everything.